G'day audiophiles, this is the Sirens of Audio. My name is Dwayne, and to follow on from last episode with special guest Nick Briggs, I thought who better to turn to than my go-to guy, a guy that is well known for his infectious laughter, that is Mr. Bitch. No, I mean the fabulous Adam Richard.
Oh my God, that is a deep cut from a million years ago.
I know you've done a lot of stuff, Adam. You've done a lot of stuff, and I just
Mr. Bitch was like 2003, 2002. Like this nearly 20 years ago.
You and I are both old enough to realise that 2002 is not that long ago, relatively speaking.
Everything since 99 feels like last Thursday, but in reality, like sometimes when I'm at my work, my boss will go, "Oh yeah, that's like 2001. That's fairly recent." I'm like, "Mate, that's 19 years ago." Some of our audience weren't born.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Please don't say things like that. I don't want some things I just don't want to know. All right, we're going to talk about a Doctor Who spin-off series today, CounterMeasures, which you and I both love. But first of all, I want to know a bit more about you. Tell us a bit about your history in Doctor Who fandom, because obviously you're well known in Australia. I haven't followed your career outside of Australia. Are you well known everywhere else?
Oh yes, totally famous. No, not
everyone knows you everywhere.
I can't pull off that Joel Creasy joke of claiming that I'm more famous than I am. I've performed overseas. Like I've done like Edinburgh Fringe and stuff a couple of times. I did this hilarious thing in Edinburgh once, which was like a sitcom festival. Like it was like someone had dropped out of a show and I was doing the show after them, and they're like, "Can you come in and do this?" So I ended up with this weird British live sitcom thing for some bizarre reason. But yeah, no, not. I've been to overseas. I've been on Chelsea lately. That's on in America, but I don't think anyone would remember me from that. So yeah, no, I'm just more famous in my own lounge room than anywhere else.
Yeah, and you're doing a daily podcast. That's pretty intense. But
I'm an idiot.
Apart from Doctor Who, you and I have something else in common, that we both were once bank tellers.
Oh, you were a bank teller as well.
Yeah, do you feel the connection?
Ago?
Do you feel it?
How long ago?
I joined the bank, I think, in 2006, so it was a bit after your time.
I was 91.
Oh, wow.
I worked at the State Bank of Victoria, which is no longer a going concern. In fact, stopped being a going concern when I was there. It was absorbed by the Commonwealth. And it was so long ago that we had passbooks that you had to stick in the machine and they would go and spit out, the old lady's transactions. And stamps, big rubber stamps. That was my favourite thing. Just stamping stuff like bang, 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 bang. Great with a hangover.
So I can understand with a career starting off in banking, how that switched to comedy. There's a lot of material there.
Yeah, the comedy thing, like I was on a weird, because everyone's socially doing Zoom calls now, as well as us doing it for our job/hobby. I was on this Zoom call the other day with some people I went to writing school with. I studied professional writing and editing at RMIT in Melbourne. And I was in a class with playwright Peter Murray. She was my teacher. And she essentially taught me how to write stand-up, just as part of the course. Like it was, about learning the structures of theatre writing and performance and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I started doing stand-up while I was doing that course. And so yeah, I kind of came at it from the other angle. Like a lot of people go into stand-up wanting to be famous or wanting to be, on television, whereas I just wanted a way to perform my writing without having to hire other actors. It's like, I can do all this. This is easy. Also, just when I worked out that because I've been doing so much narrative writing at school, doing stand-up, you don't necessarily need a narrative. You could just write the jokes, which, not having to loop them all together was a relief. So yeah, I started doing stand-up out of writing school. And I never finished the school. It was a TAFE course. I had a job. Isn't that the whole point of going to TAFE?
But you finished stand-up a few years ago.
I did. Well, I did that for 22 years. Like, it's long enough to do anything.
I remember on your podcast you made the comment that, you felt like you were getting a bit old to be doing stand-up. So my question is, what's everyone else's excuse?
It's just me. Like, I mean, that's my own personal experience. I know a lot of old people can, like, Denise Scott, I think, didn't hit her straps really as a stand-up until she was in her 60s. Like, she is the best she's ever been at the moment as a comedian. But yeah, it was just my own experience. Like, you turn up to these gigs and it's just a room full of 20-somethings staring at you, like, confused. Like, why is my gay dad on stage? Like, it's just weird. My gay granddad is probably getting to the point of at the moment. So yeah, I just went, nah, I can't do it anymore. And also, a lot of people who do stand-up are very needy and annoying, and you have to hang out with them. And that's not anyone's idea of a good time. Also, the pay didn't go up. Like, for 20 years. I've been doing it for 22 years, and in Sydney, I get paid less now in whole dollar terms than I did, say, 10 years ago when I was doing gigs here. So, yeah, just because, it's supply and demand. There's a lot of supply, not much demand.
The Doctor Who related thing that you've done on TV recently is Whovians, but before that you actually did a series about a bunch of Doctor Who fans. Well, was it sci-fi fans?
They were generic
Outland.
Sci-fi fans called Outland.
Yeah.
We managed to get permission to use Doctor Who. We had to write some weird things into the script to kind of get around the brand manager, because they were like, it's not a cult show, it's not a science fiction show, it's a family drama. It's like, okay. So we had to sort of massage a few of the lines of dialogue to be able to use, like, all of my dollies. Like, a lot of the dollies in the episodes were from my own collection. And also my dollies were in a TV show called Lockdown. Was it Lockdown? Lowdown, Adam Zwa's show, which was on the ABC. Like, one of the girls, I think maybe the production manager I knew from writing school, maybe, or from the radio. And she was like, oh, can I borrow some of your Doctor Who dollies? And so, yeah, they're in more than one television show, some that I'm not even in. Anyway, yeah, so Outland, we tried to get the rights to Star Trek, and they gave us a flat-out no, so we had to make up our own outer space. This television show called...
The Orville?
No, it was called Space Station Beta.
Okay. There you go. Now we are showing our age, going back to Space 1999. Very good.
Oh, I loved Space 1999. It was so good. I had an Eagle spaceship, like, kit, like model kit. It was the best. I don't know what happened to it. I'm normally such a hoarder. Yeah.
They were extremely iconic, and then I must have only ever seen the Series 1 as a kid, and then I got the box set, jumped onto Series 2, and was quite shocked. We only really had, like, it was on, like, Channel 7 in Melbourne, but, like, at the oddest times. Like, it's like 11 a.m. in the morning, wasn't it?
Like, what?
Something like
never the same time twice. Like, I remember once it turned up during Easter after the stall gift was on. Like, it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And, like, my dad used to insist on watching the stall gift. It was his one Easter tradition. Like, it's raining outside and we have to watch people in the country going for a run. But yeah, it was like, you could never find Space 1999. It was just all over the schedule. Like, it wasn't like Doctor Who, which was, every day at the same time. And same as Thunderbirds, every Saturday morning, even though it was 6 o'clock in the morning, I would get up and watch Thunderbirds like a crazy person. Well into my adulthood.
Same here. Now, with Whovians too, were you involved in the pitching of that, or was that just Rove's
No,
idea?
that was entirely Rove. Like I just got a call from my agent saying, "Oh, this thing's come up. Are you going to be available for it?" Because I was in the middle of doing series 2, I think, of Hard Quiz, and I was like, "Oh, I guess." I said, because I was living in Melbourne to do Hard Quiz, even though I live in Sydney, and Whovians shoots at Ultimo, which is like 20-minute walk from my house. But yeah, so I was like, look, I can make myself available. Like, and also it was going to be on the weekend. So I was like, well, it's an excuse to go home on the weekend. Rather than be stuck in Melbourne, sleeping on the floor at my sister's house. But yeah, so that was Rove's idea. And I was very, very excited to be part of it. It was really, really good fun that first season. I loved it. But yeah.
And I guess that you were very sorely missed on Series 3 of Whovians, by the way.
Bless you.
Lots of us missed you. Still very good, though, we must say.
Yeah.
The part of Whovians that spawned your podcast, I think, wasn't it? Adam Richard has a theory.
Well, that was a stupid idea in a meeting where I said we should have a... Every time I get too excited about crazy continuity, Rove can hose me down with a with a fire extinguisher, which on ABC budget turned into a spray water bottle.
Yeah.
To the point where Michael Rowland sprayed me on News Breakfast once. Because I'd gone in to talk about Jodie Whittaker being cast as the Doctor. One morning I was on my way to work and I got a call saying, "Can you come in?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to the building anyway. I'll just go an hour early." And he got out a spray bottle. I was like, "How did you manage to sort that out? Like, it took us 3 weeks to get one of those in Sydney."
So what possessed you to do a podcast every single day?
I listen to daily podcasts, and I feel like, an hour-long podcast you never get through if your commute's not that long. Some people only take 15 minutes to get to work, or only have like a 20-minute walk, or whatever it is. And a lot of podcasts go for 45, 50 minutes, sometimes 2.5 hours. So yeah, I'd always been interested in the idea of a daily podcast. Like, I get ABC's AM as a podcast rather than, because who's up at 7 o'clock in the morning to listen to the radio? So, that's like a daily news podcast, and they come in like 3-minute chunks. You can download those as by story. I also listen to The Archers, the long-running British soap opera that's been on since the 50s, I think. I think they're hitting it to their 70th anniversary or something. But yeah, I listen to that every day. It's 12 minutes. It's like a perfect, walk around the block podcast, or, you can knock it over while you're doing the dishes or something like that. So yeah, for me, because I'd been listening to daily podcasts, and even when I listened to a long form podcast, I would stop after 10 or 15 minutes and then pick up the next day and, kind of get... So I just thought a daily podcast is something that people might respond to. If I'm doing it, maybe someone else is. And also, it's a podcast. It doesn't have a time limit on it. You can just listen to 5 episodes in a row and pretend it's weekly.
Yeah, you can. So what have you been doing lately? You've been doing episodes on the VR game this week.
Yeah, well, I was going to take a break from the podcast because I've got a lot of other work on. And I thought, oh God, I don't have time to do the podcast, which is, for a 10-minute podcast, it's quite intensive because it involves either half an hour or an hour of watching television on top of talking about it. So I just thought, I'll record this. I was just going to play the VR game and then talk about it afterwards. But then I thought, why don't I just wire myself up and see what it sounds like and play the actual game? And I was having so much fun that it's actually gone longer than I thought it would. So I thought I'd be done with the whole game in a week, and I've barely gotten through the tutorial level. So, that's been very good fun. But I'll probably, because there's not much story in the game so far. Like, I've finally got to the end of a chapter, so I can at least one day next week, or last week, or whatever week this goes up, one day during this podcast, I'll reflect on the story before I head back in and play again. But yeah, it's been fun. It's although I do get quite sick in VR. I didn't realize that was going to be a problem.
Is that right?
Yeah, you get motion sickness because it's very strange. I didn't think I'd have to wear my glasses, but I did. I like all these things I wasn't expecting. And also I forget that I'm in there and I go looking for things in the lounge room that I can't see. I'm like, that was just behind me. I'm like, oh, it's behind me on the couch, not here in the TARDIS. Like, I'm going to take my helmet off to look for things around the room. I just easily forget things. And also I get so caught up in stuff. Like once, like this is basically endemic of how I behave. I get so caught up in things. Like I once went to the Gold Coast with my mate Peter, and we went in. Do you know Infinity on the Gold Coast? It's like
I do.
This
Yeah.
stupid thing you wander around. We're in this room that's all mirrors with lights everywhere, and we thought we were stuck inside Aurak from Blake 7. And we were in there for I think an hour because we couldn't find the door. We were laughing hysterically and like, maybe it's in the floor, maybe we have to lift up the floor, like just, and then like a 6-year-old just walked past us and went out the door and like, oh man, this is embarrassing. So yeah, I went in a haunted house on the Gold Coast and like I got paralyzed with fear because if you broke like these little light bars, like little laser beams, then like jets of air would come out of the wall, and I was squealing so much and so terrified that I just got stuck in this position. I mean, I can't go anymore because I'm going to break the beam and it's going to shoot at me and I can't do it. So that's how I am in the VR game. It's a lot of squealing.
Well, as I said, I'm a bit behind. I'm looking forward to those episodes now, I must say.
Feel free to skip them.
All right, so thanks for that. But we're here to talk about countermeasures, so we probably should talk about that. So I'm going to stick in we're going to talk about the last two that have been released only in the last couple of months. That is the Movellan Maneuver and the Dalek Gambit. So I'm going to stick in a trailer for one of them right here.
From Big Finish Productions.
Lady Claire.
Lady Suzanne Claire.
The new countermeasures, the Movellan Maneuver.
She's back. And she's branched out.
They took the robo-helper with them.
Of course they did. Things are turning out very well, aren't they?
Well, what are we waiting for, Gilmore? Shoot her!
I can't shoot Rachel!
She's lifted Alison 2 feet off the ground and is throttling her in midair.
You see, you four have no idea how much of a thorn in my side you've been over the past few years.
What are you planning? Shall I show you?
You've interfered.
Call in the troops. We're being invaded.
You've meddled.
That is what we offer. What on earth?
You've prevented me from making all manner of lucrative deals.
Hold your fire! Someone's coming out!
Without ever realizing I was involved.
Open fire!
They found us! Run!
Robo-helper, destroy them!
Big Finish. We love stories.
Maybe, but I have this awful feeling we've missed something.
So, do you remember back in 2013, Adam, when the Assassination Games was released in November? That was the 50th anniversary Doctor Who main range.
Yeah. That was a great one.
That's where countermeasures started. So it all kind of spawned from there.
Well, it really started in Remembrance of the Daleks.
Thanks for correcting me on that one.
On the TV.
I'm too young to remember that far back.
Yeah, I was doing Year 12 that year, I think. Is that the year I was doing Year 12? It was maybe, yeah, around about then. Yeah, so the whole team had, like most Big Finish things, were vaguely related to being on television. You know, it's there was Professor Rachel Jensen, and she was like in charge of it was sort of like a pre-unit with Captain Gilmore and who's the other one?
Rachel.
Rachel.
And Alison, I should say.
Oh yeah, Alison. So yeah, so they're they were in that 4-part story, which people only really kind of remember the Dalek going up the stairs. Because it was so exciting. It's like, oh my God, they really can go up the stairs. But yeah, so this was like, that little team were together. And so Big Finish started a spin-off they brought in Hugh Ross as Sir Toby. And yeah, it's just a glorious, glorious thing. That main range one where the Seventh Doctor meets up with them again is fun, but it's a lot of squealing and running around. I much preferred the earlier CounterMeasures series where they're kind of, it's like a 60s TV show, like The Prisoner or Danger Man or one of those. Like it's very atmospheric, not much happens, everyone's doing double or triple dealings. It's very kind of Cold War. And one of my favorite ever episodes where I sat and laughed for about 10 minutes and had to pause it and rewind it was one just where someone said, I'm going to call him. And you just heard them dialing the rotary phone for about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like click, ding, 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 click, ding, 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 ding. I was like, oh my God, if people knew how long it took to make a phone call.
Yeah. Not that long ago.
No, it was a long time ago, Dwayne.
Oh, no.
We haven't had rotary phones since the 80s. They brought in the push buttons. I mean, they still went click, 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 click when you press the button.
The most important thing was you could still slam it. You could slam it down in anger,
yeah.
whereas you can't quite do that anymore with a mobile phone.
Well, you can, but your screen breaks, which is probably why a lot of people have broken screens. It's like, I hate you, bang! Oh, I'll cut myself on my phone.
Yeah, so those early countermeasures, they managed to squeeze out quite a few box sets in a short space of time, 4 box sets. So that was pretty cool. And then I don't remember the details behind it, but they decided to sort of add 10 years or something to the countermeasures team and call it the new countermeasures, maybe like the Avengers and the new Avengers.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is kind of the thing. And they moved from sort of an espionage kind of, sort of like a cross between the X-Files and, like Callan, one of those very, early 70s, late 60s shows to the kind of late 70s, early 80s action adventure kind of thing. Like it's almost like, The Professionals or, The Persuaders or one of those kind of action shows. So it's, they're very self-contained 1-hour episodes, whereas before they were, they were self-contained stories, but there was always like this ongoing, plot of alien invasion or another, some mysterious foreign power taking over, Iron Curtain business. It was all very exciting. It's very John le Carré back in the day.
So yeah, they came forward into the new countermeasures. What did you think of that change of direction? I was quite happy with how it was. I wanted more.
Yeah, I really liked the way it was. I mean, I can understand them. It probably just wasn't selling as well as their other ranges, despite the fact that it's, beautifully written and wonderfully performed. But it would be an expensive series to produce. Like it's, you've got a minimum of 4 people to pay, and then having to get extra cast on top of that. So it can't be a particularly profitable series for them at Big Finish. So yeah, I mean, the new countermeasures they were fun. They were still exciting and interesting stories, but because they didn't have that kind of ongoing narrative, they kind of left me a little bit cold. Although I have been enjoying the frequent guest appearances by Carolyn Seymour, who is one of my favourite actors of all time. She was the evil Leaper from Quantum Leap.
Oh, wow.
I know. She's so good. She was in Survivors way back when, a million years ago, the Terry Nation series, which we don't want to think about right now in the pandemic. She's also, she was in one of my favorite episodes of The Next Generation. She was a Romulan. I think she was the boss of the Tel Shiar, maybe, or something, in an episode where Deanna Troi wakes up and she's a Romulan. Oh, such a good one. Anyway, Carolyn Seymour is great. And she's in both of these episodes that have just come out, the Dalek and Movellan ones. And it's, I've kind of liked it, but these two latest ones, I really enjoyed the Movellan one a lot because it's kind of set sort of towards the end of the 70s, early 80s. You can really see the Movellans fitting in, and everyone just going, "Oh yeah, they just look like they're going to a disco."
Yeah. I thought you'd pick up on that.
Fun. But the Dalek one, I have to say, it's Daleks on Big Finish always. It's exciting at the time when you listen to it, but then when the episode's finished, you just go, I don't really remember much, but there's a lot of screaming and explosions. Whereas I'm kind of, I get more excited about the small character moments and like the interplay between the characters as opposed to the running and screaming and lots of things being shot. Like the Movellan one was great because it was sort of like, the Movellans are... they're kind of infiltrating the earth in a way. They're pretending to be human, and no one really knows what they are, who they are. They're almost like it's almost like the Autons, but they're a bit brainier. But yeah, they're sort of infiltrating, and it's a really nice kind of spooky kind of callback to the earlier series. That first episode of these two episodes, the Movellan Maneuver, is that what it's called?
That's it. I think what the script was trying to do was trying to make us think that somehow these house cleaners were somehow Movellans, so it was kind of misdirecting us in a
the
sense.
Roomba. The scary space Roomba.
That's it. And then it turns out that you could sort of tell because obviously we had. I'm always cautious to talk about racial things, but we had the lead character of the Movellans in Destiny of the Daleks as a black actor. So we had a black actor in here playing the sidekick. So you put two and two together from Destiny of the Daleks, and you think, well, this guy's going to turn out to be a Movellan. You sort of think.
Well, also he's kind of he's playing it so kind of almost robotic, the character. Like he almost has no personality, that you go, oh yeah, he's got to be the Movellan. Also, it's that glorious actor from Cucumber and Banana who, oh my god, what a great show that was. But yeah, it's like him and Carolyn Seymour together. Just, I could have listened to like 4 hours of them just sniping at one another. Because that's like I was saying, there's not much room for other actors in episodes of CounterMeasures, so there really are only the two of them, other than the main forecast.
Because Pamela Salem lives in the States, doesn't she?
Yeah.
They may be, she may be doing her stuff separately. I don't know.
Yeah, but just like cost-wise, they can only really afford two other actors. And then I don't know what happens when Nick Briggs is in it, whether they pay him more or he does everything, for nothing because he's an executive producer, so it makes things a bit cheap, so they can get him in to do the Daleks, and he also plays one other character in.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the cast list. It's Soldier.
Yeah, but yeah,
Soldier.
there's literally there's only 6 or 7 characters in each of these, and more than half of them are the main cast.
So the guy that plays Morris and turns out to be the Movellan commander is Cyril Neary. Is that how? Henry, is it?
I think so.
Yeah, so he mentions those in the extras. He talks about the other series that he was in, Cucumber, and talks about his work with Russell T Davies. He was also he had a part in the Sarah Jane Adventures and Class as well as a shopkeeper, which I don't remember those because I think it might have been from later series, which I.
Yeah. Because he was meant to be a recurring character in the Sarah Jane Adventures before this lady died. But yeah, he's so wonderful. In there's one episode of Cucumber that is basically a flashback of his entire life, and it is just one of the most heartbreaking episodes of television you will ever watch. It's just one of these moments where you've been in these situations with this character, and then this episode happens and you're like, oh wow, this explains so much of who this person is. And he's so great in it. It's I get so excited when they have these guest actors in Big Finish stories, because you're just like, oh wow, you're really doing something interesting with an amazing performer. Because sometimes in the TV series I find that they'll get a guest actor in and they'll have like 6 lines and you go, well, that could have been anyone. Like like Rebecca Front from The Thick of It, when she turns up in the Zygon episode and she's got a helmet on and she's got about 4 lines and she gets to hold a gun, and it's like, no, I want more of her. I want heaps more of her. And like with David Warner's in the submarine, with the
with the Ice Warriors.
With the Ice Warriors, I'm like, I want more of David Warner. Like David Warner is in a couple of Tom Baker episodes, and they are obviously having the best fun in the world, just playing against one another. Like, just, one of my favorite shows to watch is the Kenneth Branagh series, Wallander, and David Warner plays his dad. And, they both are famous for their Shakespearean performances, and just seeing them play off against one another as this tortured father and son who just can't bear one another but forced together. Amazing scenes. Like, that's what I love about Big Finish, is they just will throw 2 great actors together, give them some decent dialogue, and, it's amazing. With casting, I think they're doing a lot better than the TV show has been of late.
Speaking of David Warner, have you heard you're probably a bit behind, but the last couple of Benny box sets, she's joined up with David Warner as the Unbound Doctor, who's come over to our universe.
Yeah, I've not heard any of those because I'm very behind on my Bennies.
No, that's awesome. The last one I just listened to while I was traveling, I was listening to in the car, and it was a series of stories written by 4 brand new writers that they brought in, which was really refreshing sometimes in Big Finish.
Oh yeah, that was a competition a couple of years ago to write for Benny and the yeah.
So I think one person won that, but there were others who were shortlisted that they contacted to write full episodes. So that's a short list you want to be on.
Yeah, that'd be exciting.
You're a writer, Adam. Have you ever thought of trying to pitch to Big Finish?
Oh yeah, we had Jason Hagellery on Whovians once.
Oh, you would have got in his ear.
And I was like, so, like, I've always wanted to write for Doctor Who, but one of the problems of doing something for work that you love as a hobby is that it then becomes work. So it can be an issue. You have to really want to still love it at the other end, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you'll make a TV show and it makes watching television really difficult for you for the rest of your life. Like, I can't watch comedy without analysing it. Like, it has to be something transcendent, like Fleabag, for me to forget that it's a comedy and that I'm analysing every last thing that everyone does. But yeah, I did say to Jason, I was like, oh yeah, what's the submission thing like? Is it difficult? Like, are you guys looking for people? He goes, look, we're always looking for new and talented writers, Adam, but you'll do.
What a response.
I know, he's hilarious. So it's just, I'm very busy writing other things. Who's got time? But yeah, I've got a few ideas because working on Hard Quiz is, a fountain of crazy research. So every week it's someone else's topic, and every week something else will inspire me to go, oh, that could be an interesting story about this, or that could be but I've got to pump out Hard Quiz questions. I don't have time to write other things. But yes, there's a lot in my in the back office ready to go when I get time.
If I ever do a virtual trivia night on Zoom, for instance, as I've actually done one of those since the pandemic with a bunch of friends, I'd want you on my table, please. That would be good. The amount of knowledge you'd have after doing Hard Quiz would be phenomenal.
Yeah, you'd think so, but
In one ear and in one eye and out the other?
no, it's just that the way we write hard quiz is we write, even though they're quiz questions, they're basically stories in the form of a question. So I'm really good at telling you a story, but I'm not great with facts and figures. Which is, so yeah, like that's one of the things I think that it's sort of a bit invisible in the show. Like people love quiz shows because they love seeing people's knowledge on the screen, but we really trip up a lot of those hardcore quiz people because we're not asking, you know, what was the fifth time that this happened, or how many times did that go on, or what was so-and-so's best score. You know, the kind of things that quiz people memorize. What we're asking are for them to tell us the stories behind the fascinating facts. So yeah, it's sometimes it doesn't mean I'd be any good at a quiz, but I can tell you some great stories. I can tell you some fascinating things about shark teeth. And the fact that a shark's entire skin is made of teeth. Like,
is it really?
Yeah. They're called dermal denticles. They look like, under an electron microscope, they are kind of...
Oh, that's right, because they're like sandpaper when you touch them.
Yeah. When you rub one way, they're really, well, worse than sandpaper. They can actually cut you up quite badly. But yeah, each scale, they look like fish scales, but they used to be called placoid scales once upon a time, but now they're called dermal denticles. And each one has pulp and a root and is covered in enamel, which, you know, is one of the hardest substances in the natural world. And they think that maybe they've evolved like that because they might bite each other during lovemaking.
Okay.
Which for a
bit
great
like humans, really.
Which has 300 serrated teeth in its mouth. You'd want a bit of defense against that.
Yeah, you would. Just a little.
But yeah, a shark is made entirely of teeth.
So Sirens of Audio fans, just when you thought you were going to hear some Big Finish facts,
I know.
you've got to learn some facts about sharks that you had never imagined you'd ever hear.
This is what happens in my podcast. I go on so many left turns, I barely talk about Doctor Who.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So, bringing it back to the Dalek Gambit, I felt very similarly to you when the Daleks were around, that it was a lot of flashes, bangs, things like that. But what I think that story was doing, it was leading up to the final scene, which we can't really spoil if you haven't heard it. But it is a slightly tragic scene, or is it? There is an element of tragedy in there. And I think that whole story, the second part of that story, is building up to that. So, and I think it was really well done, and it was left open to finishing countermeasures there or going on if they decide to bring them back at some stage in the future. I'd be happy if they brought them back.
Because apparently it had ended. They decided they'd cancelled the series and they were never going to do it again. And apparently, like, it's one of the worst pirated ones. Like, people, you know.
Really?
Yeah. Which is bizarre.
People are still doing that?
People are still doing that. But yeah, so they decided they couldn't afford to do it anymore. It just wasn't making enough money. And then they got this last minute reprieve and they said, oh, we'll make 2 more. And, you know, you put a Dalek on the cover, that should sell a few more, hopefully. But, you know, is that going to sell just because it's the Daleks and not because it's countermeasures? And is it...
We've got Disco Dollies.
We've got Disco Dollies, yes. Is it going too far away from countermeasures that even if the series does go on, it's being sold on a faulty premise? But it was when I saw that the Daleks were there, I thought, oh, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make it out of this one. I thought this could be the the be all and end all of countermeasures. But yeah, I didn't love that second one as much as the first one, which I absolutely adored. Like I said, the first one was very classic countermeasures. A lot of who's doing what to whom is something that seems like it's one thing, turns out to be another thing, and then it turns out to be a third thing. So that's very classic countermeasures. Whereas the second one was just a lot of explosions.
Yeah, they could come back at some point. Now, I want to ask you a quick question before we finish up. If there were some other teams, like we've had the countermeasures team, we've had Jago and Lightfoot.
Oh, that's one of my favourite spin-offs as well. All 13 series of it, all gold, all funny.
Yeah. if there were some characters from the classic series that you would like to see as a Big Finish spin-off, who would they be?
I don't know. I love that they've, gone to the world of the robots of death. That's like a whole series with Nicola Walker and Claire Rushbrook playing her sister. Like, just there's some spectacular casting. Like, I don't even care what happens in those episodes.
Yeah, that's it.
Spooky robots, two amazing actors. I don't care. I don't know who else I'd kind of love, because Jago and Lightfoot almost were a spin-off in and of themselves. I wouldn't mind, I really like the modern unit stories, but I wouldn't mind, I know they've did one series with the old unit guys, but maybe a few more, old unit kind of dudes. I'm very sad that there's no Elizabeth Sladen, because she would be amazing on her own. But yeah.
And the audio series was never finished.
Yeah, I know.
It was left on a cliffhanger.
Well, yeah, because the TV series was coming.
That's it.
They were making it around the same time, and they're like, yeah, no, you can't do that anymore.
But for some reason, I keep thinking about Glitz. Glitz and either Glitz and Dibber or Glitz and Mel.
Isn't Tony Selby no longer with us? Or?
I don't know. He possibly not.
I thought he'd passed on. I know this is going to sound insane, but I've always thought there was some sort of scope for a very funny action comedy series with Tom Chadlin as Duggan from The City of Death.
Oh, beautiful. I love it.
Like, just him trying desperately to solve crimes and just, blundering through doorways, and just because he was such a ludicrous character, but kind of fun and just gorgeously played. And he turns up in a lot of Big Finish stuff. So,
well, he plays Harry Sullivan's brother.
Yeah.
In the Sarah Jane, not Sarah Jane Adventures, Sarah Jane Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Big Finish series. So yeah, he that's a character that I thought had, you would have to tone down some of the more slapstick elements to make it an ongoing thing. Unless you did it Inspector Gadget style and you have a younger, feisty sort of character who he's their mentor. And, you have your Penny character and he's like the Inspector Gadget just blundering through things while they do the actual solving of the crimes. But that would be a fun, I would enjoy that, because he was one of my favorite characters. Like, I don't love The City of Death as much as other people do, but I did love him.
Yeah, and then he went very serious in Trial of a Time Lord, which you've watched recently.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's difficult. that character's whole arc where you're like, what is he doing? You know who else would have been a great character to kind of follow through? And although Philip Maddock is no longer with us, but Professor Solon from The Brain of Morbius, just just him having a series of gothic horror adventures, with different situations.
Well, they've done I Davros, so maybe they could do I Solon.
Yes,
that'd be cool.
Also,
Lytton, very, very cool.
Lytton was another great character from the Attack of the Cybermen and Resurrection of the Daleks, who could have had another life beyond the thing. But yeah, it's so many of these actors have gone where radio cannot get to them.
Not yet, anyway.
No, technology's not that good. And Jacob Dudman's range isn't that great to be able to do them all.
Well, it is pretty good, though.
It is pretty good, but that's asking him too much.
I just, having seen Jacob in his studio on YouTube and doing those voices, it sort of takes away a bit of the magic for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how he started, though, doing them as YouTube videos before he got into the Big Finish thing. So yeah, he's he and John Culshaw, them having a fight over who's going to voice what would be hilarious.
Yeah, there you go. John Colshaw's rendition of the Brigadier is just amazing. I love it.
So good. He's so good at so many of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Jacob Dudman, I think you recommended a series on your podcast that I ended up watching, binging on Netflix, The Stranger.
Oh, The Stranger. It's terrible and amazing at the same time. Like, I loved it and hated it all at once. Like, it was incredible. He's really good in that. And I remember the only reason I found out about that was because, I'd seen it turn up on my Netflix, but someone from Big Finish had tweeted when they showed the cast list, they're going, "Are you sure this isn't one of our plays?" Because it was like Jacob Dudman, Richard Armitage, who's done a bunch of things for Big Finish. Who else was in it? There's a whole bunch of people. Like I think Gemma Powell's in it, who is Barbara in the first Adventures with David Bradley. Yep. Like, it's seriously like a whole list of people, like Anthony Stewart Head, like a whole bunch of people who've done Big Finish stuff in the past. You're like, hang on a minute.
Well, hopefully that's distracted you for a little while this afternoon while you're in isolation, like the rest of the planet.
Yes, it's we're all living in our own houses, which is the last place we want to be. Otherwise, we'd tidy them more often.
Exactly. So, Adam, Richard, thank you so much for joining me today.
Anytime, Dwayne. Thank you.
So there you have it. We hope you enjoyed that episode, and we hope you enjoy, if you haven't already heard, the new CounterMeasures episodes that we talked about through that episode. Make sure you subscribe to your podcast feed for the next installment of the Sirens of Audio. You can check out our webpage, which is sirensofaudio.com. You can contact me on email, sirensofaudio@gmail.com. We're on Facebook too. Just search for the Sirens of Audio. And on Twitter, we are at Audio Sirens. Thank you for listening. And until next time, ensure that you surround yourself with lots of lovely audio drama, because you know what? Audio drama, well, it rocks!